Hey everybody, this is Games Plus James, and welcome back to our Unity 2D tutorial where we're covering all the basic elements that you need to make your own platforming game full of fun and goodness. So today we're going to take a look at how to retain information between scenes or between levels in your game. For example, if your character has a live system as we created in the last game, if we play the game here now, if we go to a new game, we start off, we see we've got 2 lives here to start off with. We kill him, and then if we go out to our level select and go into a new level like this one, now we're back up, we have 2 lives again. We've basically reset how many lives we start off each level with. So if you don't want to do that, if you would prefer that like your player has his lives retained through your levels, then that's what we're going to do today. That's what we're going to take a look at doing. So the way we're going to handle this is using a thing called player prefs, which is basically a way of creating permanent kind of saves within your game without making a complicated system where you have to export files and read different files in different ways. This is a very simple way to do it and make it very straightforward. You could use this for unlocking levels and stuff like that further down the line if you wanted to, but we'll stick with lives and perhaps the health and the score that we're tracking in the game with our system at the moment. So what we're going to do is, when we start a new game, we're going to set it so that the player prefs value that we'll set stores how many lives our player has. Because if we go to one of our levels here, we'll go to level 1. In here, if we go to on our HUD and our life system, here it is, our life manager script. We can see here we're determining how many lives our player starts off with here, so that every time the level loads, it's going here and it's going, okay, the player has 2 lives to start off the level with. But that's not what we want. We want a permanent value going through the whole game. So what we're going to do is, from the main menu, we're going to set a value here that determines how many lives you start off the whole game with, and then from that point on, lives will be added or taken away, and then that's how you can eventually end up with a game over on level 67 with the same amount of lives you started off the whole game with. But anyway, okay, so what we'll do is, on our main menu script, which is this one here, so we open this up in MonoDevelop, and once it opens up, as we can see, this little script here is very simple, but what we're going to do is we're going to add a value for us to decide how many lives the player starts off with. So we'll go for public int player lives, and then when we click new game to start a new game, what we're going to do is player prefs dot set int. So with player prefs, you can set an int, you can set a float, or you can set a string, and you can basically send these values and they'll be stored on the computer between sessions of the game. So if your user closes out of the game and goes off into something else and starts back up again, anything that you've stored in player prefs will still be there when they start up the game again next time. So this time we're going to say player prefs dot set int, and we're going to use something. We're going to use, say, player lives, and the value that we're going to give player lives is our public int that we set up here, which is our small p player lives. We'll just close that bracket. Okay, so basically what this does is it goes to the player prefs and it sets an int value within there, and it sets this value. It basically decides, it looks for anything in the player prefs that says player lives, and since there isn't one there yet, we're creating this. So it creates a player lives little directory basically, and then it says, okay, player lives is equal to the small player lives that we have here. Let's actually just say player current lives and make it easier to explain this stuff rather than just saying the same word twice. So player current lives is player lives. So we want that to happen when the game starts for the very first time. But we also want to do actually no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do anything else with lives. What we also want to do down here though is when we go to our level select, we want to do the exact same thing here. Because if, for example, we have our game over script running in the game, and when the player loses all their lives, their values are going to go down and down and down, and then when we start a new level, or we return to the main menu, and if we decided to go to level select, our lives would still be at 0, and we would get an instant game over. So we don't want that to happen. So we want the player current lives to be reset back to the player lives value once a new level is selected. So we'll save this and we'll pop back into the game. And now on our main menu here, once it's finished compiling down here in the corner, we should see a value for player lives pop up. There we go. So we'll start off the player with, say, 5 lives. Now at the moment this by itself doesn't do anything. If we hit play here, obviously nothing's going to happen. If we go to new game, we haven't made any changes yet, so the player still starts with 2 lives, and that's perfectly fine. Game over. So what we need to do now is determine how the lives knows how many lives the player should have. So we'll load up level 1 here, and where's our HUD? There it is. Okay, so we got our life system, and we'll go down to where our script is. So we have our starting lives value here. That's determined how many lives we have, but we don't want to use that. That's not what we want to use anymore. So we're going to open up our life manager script here in MonoDevelop, and once it opens, there we go. Okay, so we've got our starting lives, but we don't want to use that anymore for managing our players' lives. So we will just comment that out with 2 slashes, so then it's not being used at all anymore. And we can see here our life counter is looking for the start lives variable that we just got rid of. But because we're not using it anymore, we're using player prefs instead. So we're going to say here, a life counter is equal to player prefs. And so we created the value using set int of player current lives, player lives. And what we're to get the value back out again, we're going to use get int. So player prefs dot get int, and we're going to get the value that we put in. So we got player current lives, I believe that's what we called it, wasn't it? Yes, player current lives, and we'll wrap that back closed, and there we go. So now if we'll hit save, convert that, and we hit play, once that finishes converting down in the corner there, or not converting, compiling down in the corner. So now look, now we have 5 lives down here. That's absolutely what we wanted. Same as we had before. We kill the player. All good. We go back to game over. And like I was saying, we go back to the menu now. So if we hadn't set the bit of script to work on the level select option, we'd encounter problems here. But as we set it up properly, we go back to level select and go into any level. There we go. We have our 5 lives back again, and that's fine. But the problem is, at the moment, all we're doing is setting the lives at the start of the level. We're setting it to 5. Player has player has 4 lives. If we go on to the next level and we go in here, our value has been set back up to 5 because we only set the value of how many lives the player should have at the very start on the start button. So what we need to do is set the amount of lives that the player has every time you add or lose a life. So we'll go back in here, and we're going to use the player prefs.setInt again. So we have our little functions for given life and taken life, and basically all we have to do here is player prefs.setInt again, and the same, we're going to affect the same value. So our player current lives, and you have to make sure you spell these the exact same with the exact same capitalization of all the letters, or else it'll create a completely different object and the game won't read the right one when you want it to. So it's always important to make sure you're spelling the correct thing every time. Okay, so player current lives, and the value we're going to pass into it is our life counter, because we wrap that closed, because our life counter has just been given an extra point there. So then, for example, if you had 5 lives, you're getting 6, and moving on to here. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to do the exact same for when a life is taken away. Save that. Now we'll pop back again into Unity, wait for this to compile down here in the corner, and once that's all good, we'll hit play again. And see, we've got 5 lives. We'll just get rid of a couple of these lives here. We'll walk on down to the end of the level. Actually, we won't even bother walking to the end. We'll just go to our level select. And now we had 3 lives there. So if we go into the next level here, we still have 3 lives just like we had before. So if we go on again, we'll lose another life. There. We head on to the end of the level. Getting out of here, and we head into the last level. Oh, level 3 hasn't been loaded. We haven't added that to the build settings. I'll fix that in a second. But we'll go back to the first level, for example. There we go. We still have 2 lives, just like we wanted. I'll just fix up that little error there. I don't know why level 3 wasn't added to the build settings. So we'll just drag that in there. Perfect. So there you go. That's our life system working fully in operation. So if you want to retain your lives between levels, that'll work fine. If you want to do some more though, we can take a look at adding the health and adding the score using the same system. So if we want our player to retain a score between each level, we may want him to be able to build up to 900 million score or whatever he wants. And maybe we want his health to be retained between levels as well. You might want his health to be reset every time the level loads up, and if that's the case, then leave it the way you already have there built into the game. But let's try and do something a little bit different. So we've used, where's our HUD? We use, for our score system, we have our score counter here, and we have our score manager script. So we'll open that up in MonoDevelop. And we're going to handle it pretty much the exact same way as we have with Life Manager. So in our score manager, at the start of every level, the score is set to 0. So rather than having the score set to 0 every time, what we're going to do is score is equal to player prefs dot get int, and we'll say current score. Now we haven't created that int yet, but we will look at that now in a second. So current score, and yeah, it has no value yet. And much like we did with Life Manager, we're going to, every time the score is changed, we're going to use, we're going to set the player prefs. So player prefs dot set int current score. Whoop, beyond the if I spelled things properly, current score, and the value that we're setting that to is the score here. So which is the score plus equals points to add. So we'll set score, and we'll do the exact same thing just down here for when if the score is being reset for any reason you're calling that in the game, that'll work fine. So we pop back in the game here. There's now what will happen, we'll just leave that to compile for a second, is the game will start, and at the start of it it'll go score is equal to player prefs.getInt. And now if we do that right now in the game, it's going to cause a problem because we haven't set an int. It's the first set that we're encountering is when the player's adding some points. So if we hit play here now, we should get an error in the bottom saying that it can't find it. Okay, well it didn't create an error. Oh, it's running off. I created a practice version of this script before, so it's running off the same value. So I'm just actually going to change the name of this slightly. So we'll say just current player score, just to demonstrate what happens if you don't set the int to start off with. So we'll just save that, and again wait for it to compile down here in the corner. Once that's finished going, then now we can press play. And now this time, well, we still didn't get an error, but there is a functional error in the game. So it might not have thrown an error now, but it may cause an error later on. It's not really how you want to do it, but it's not a situation that the player will end up in, because what we're going to do is on our main menu, just as we set the player current lives, we're going to set the the current player score. So what we're going to do is copy that, and on the main menu here we're going to do player prefs.set, and instead of score here, we're going to set it to 0 to start off with. And again, we'll do the exact same thing with the level select. We actually want to put the load level after we're setting all these values. And we'll just save that. Okay, and now every time the game is restarted, our current player score will be set to 0. So again, like we have with lives now, it'll run just fine in the game. Actually, I think as we picked up a few coins there a second ago, we should call the value. Yes, we should see it'll call up 300 because we picked up a few coins there. And the thing is, it is a very slight error that hasn't caused any problems now, but it may throw up some errors down the line. And because we're setting it as soon as the player starts the game, the player will never encounter this error. It's only something that might occur when we're doing stuff within the game ourselves. If we go back to the main menu, so every time you start a new game now, click new game, our score is reset back to 0, pick up some items, and it all works fine. And we'll demonstrate, we'll go on to another level here. We should retain whatever score we get. Kill some of these guys. So we got 1700 there. Move on, see we've got our 1700 score still. Move on to the next level. We can keep collecting as much points as you want. So, as you can probably guess by now, it's almost the exact same thing to do for the player's health. But there's a slight difference because we want to have a maximum value that the player health can be. So we're going to create a new public int here. Public int player health. And much like we did for player lives, we're going to set our int here the very first time we start the game. So player prefs dot set int, and we'll call this just player current health, and we will set that to be player health. And we'll also set another int here, player prefs dot set int, and open a bracket. For this one, we will say this is going to be our player max health. So this will be the maximum amount of health the player can have. And the reason why we want to use this is because every time the player is killed, his health has to be reset back up to full again. And if we're only setting the player health at the very start of the game, using the start menu, then we want the player to be able to reset the health back to full. But if we're only setting at the very start of the game, the in-level objects don't know what the maximum health is unless we set a player prefs value like this. So player max health, and we will set that also to player health. And again, much like before, we're going to add down here in the level select, we're going to add this one into there. But we're not going to set a player max health because the level select should be working off the player continuing the game. So what we'll do is we'll set it for now, because at the moment the way our menu works is the first time you start the game you can click this player max health button, or you can click the level select button, and if the player max health hasn't been set, then the game won't know what to do. But it's something we'll look at further down the line, is making this option not available for players when they're first starting the game, and whenever they restart the game, then the game knows to be able to supply them the option of continuing. But there we go. This should work fine now for our purposes. But we need to open up our health manager script. So if we go to our health title here, the script should be health counter. So we have there our max player health is 5, but we want to be setting that from our main menu. And we'll set that value now in a second, but we want to edit the script as well. So while that's loading up, actually, we'll load up the title menu screen. And on our main menu here, we've got our player health. So say we'll just give him 7, just so we know that it's been changed and different. So we pop back in the game here. So now at the very start here, we have our player health being set to max player health. And like I said, we don't want to use that. We want to use player health is equal to, we'll just comment that one out. Player health is equal to player prefs dot get int player current health. Isn't that what we called it? Just make sure. I immediately forget the variables. I give names and things. Player current health, yes. So playerprefs.getInt player current health. So at the start of every level, it'll get whatever the current health value is. And then down here, again, what we want to do is whenever the player gets hurt, we want to be able to set that value. So we will do playerprefs dot set int player current health, and the value that we'll set that again is our player health. And then when this function is called, when the player is brought back to life again after being killed, his health is refilled. So rather than player health is equal to max player health is equal to playerprefs dot getInt player max health. Oh, and again, look, you need to make sure all your capital letters are the exact same everywhere. So playerprefs dot getInt max health, and we will once again want to set our player current health to be this value. So we'll save that, convert it if you need to, and we pop back into the game, and we'll let all this compile. And now, when you're playing through the game yourself, you should be able to retain your score between levels. You'll retain how many lives you have, and you retain whatever amount of health you had on your current life. So say for example, if you're creating a game where it's not just level based, it may be you get from one area to one end of the level to the next, and you move on to the next area, and you want to retain all your kind of same values that you have. So that'd be where you'd want to use something like this. So we lose a life, we see our health is 7, so we know it's added up properly. And we walk down to this guy, we'll let him one of these guys do some damage to us. Oh no, oh no. So now we see our health is down to 5. We've got our lives, we got our score. Kill him. There we go, our health is still 5, we move on to the next level. Again, if we just take some damage from the guys here, kill him, kill that guy, we'll move on to another level. Or if we just go to our level select here, our health is still staying the exact same. If we go on here, if we kill ourselves, our health gets filled back up to 7 again. So it's perfect. Our life system and our health system and our score system are now being retained across levels, and they're resetting properly, and everything's working a-okay, perfectly fine. So there you go. That's how you carry your values between different scenes within Unity. A very basic way to do it, but a very useful way that if your game is very straightforward, as our game here is, it'll be able to handle all that stuff really well. So thanks for watching, everybody. I will return soon with some more tutorial goodness. And in the meantime, keep learning, and hopefully I want to see some amazing games that you people are making out there in the very near future. So thanks for watching. Goodbye. Thanks for watching this episode, and if you'd like to see just how some of the concepts we've covered can be brought together into a fully fledged game, then head to portalnauts.com and check out the demo for my game that I've been working on for the last while. It uses a lot of the concepts we've covered so far in the series, as well as other things that we're going to cover in the future. So if you want to get a feel for where we're going and what kind of things you can make with these with the basics of Unity, head over there, try out the game for yourself, and let me know what you think of it, of course. And the best place to let me know is to head to Twitter @GamesPlusJames. Say hi, I'm always there, ready to say hello and do stupid things. But also, if you'd like to see some of the game being worked on and developed in real time, head to twitch.tv/GamesPlusJames, where I regularly stream development of the game, and you can get to see behind the scenes of how things all work. So, head there, say hello, and I'll see you all in the near future.